in promoting his name and his memory, and supporting his family. And obviously a terrible time. It's a terrible disease. We were lamenting about cancer a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Depression is as I said, a terrible disease. Men have a hard time, right, talking to people. Ironically, when men get to chat with people, we tend to kind of open the floodgates. But the hard part for us, I think, is about making that first step, and I think that may be what he ultimately suffered from. So I'm thankful, although I didn't get to know him like many in the group did. It's so surprising, right, to hear the reason for a great man's death and the words of other people who just said nothing but great things about him. And you wonder if those that are afflicted by the disease, if they just knew how well they were thought of, how highly they were appreciated, you wonder whether the outcome would be different. So may he rest in peace, and let us do a bang-up job tonight that he would be proud of.
I agree with that. And let's, on that note, discuss Burnley, which is going to be all the more tough.
And that's the end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a clean sheet. Good night. Oh.
Yeah, always look on the bright side, right?
Oh, God.
So let's start with that.
Yeah, let's talk about Burnley a little bit, though. Good performances, bad performances, and I'm going to start. Thank you very much.
Let's start with the lineup. Let's how surprised. Now I was in the cone of silence today, so I admittedly wasn't on Twitter. I had no sort of pre-kickoff news. I just flipped on the tally, and the way I set my recorder, it just literally starts at kickoff, and
right.
I'm sort of playing through a fuzzy screen, going, okay, that's so and so, that's so and so. So what did you guys think?
Well, we were in the same boat. I got up, got dressed, went to the pub, and boom, players are coming out, and I'm trying to pick them all out, and yeah.
You saw Vlad, and then all of a sudden you have people that are looking at their phones going, hey, Vlad's starting, Vertonghen's sick, Fazio's not even on the bench. Oh, wow, Paulinho's playing in the middle. Eriksen's out on the left.
No, he was on the right.
Eriksen was on the right?
Eriksen was on the right, and on the left was Chadley. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
Paulinho in the hole.
Yeah.
Paulinho was in the hole. That's right. You're correct.
Yeah.
And, I know that you're like, why is Dembele not playing and we've got Paulinho on the pitch? And I know that that's going to be something that you kind of are a stickler about with this one. I'm going to play devil's advocate. He had such a good game and made such an impact last week that I guess Pochettino said, either you're going to play and you're going to continue to produce like you did this past week, either that or I'm going to start showcasing you for sale, because you're not going to sell a player for anything that's worth anything if he doesn't play. I mean, you have to be able to showcase these guys. Now, I might be thinking this way too deep. Maybe it was just a gut feeling that didn't work out. But I think just on the merits of what he did last week alone, did he deserve a shot that quick? I don't know, maybe. But it's really hard to look back at that Leicester match and see anything that he did wrong. And we've had so many other people struggling, whether it was Chadley or Eriksen or Dembele or Townsend at times. No one has gone out and just played a cracker of a game, but he came in and played a cracker of a half last week. And I think that's maybe why he got the nod. But I know, Sam, you got some other thoughts on this.
Well, no, I think you make fair points. I mean, he came in a bit of a strange situation, right, against Leicester. I'm just trying to think what was the auspice that he came in under. But no, he played well. He certainly didn't make any mistakes in that game. He wasn't undeserving of punishment per se. Was he deserving enough in that performance to start? I don't know. I'll take a step back. The biggest surprise to me is you've got a kid that you spent €30 million on, and if there was ever a spot in the season where you could have given him another chance, and it's not like he was terribly undeserving of continued opportunities to develop as a Premier League player, the biggest surprise to me is not so much playing Paulinho, but not playing Lamela. I know Townsend got the England call-up, but we all sort of put our hands up and said he's not exactly deserving of that accolade, but he got it nonetheless due to all the various injuries that the national team had. But and Lamela came on today, and frankly showed a little bit of the team showed a little bit of a spark when he was in. If the idea was, well, you're shopping him, I just don't think that you would do that. You could have said, look, to your point, you said the performance that he had last week somewhat maybe enabled him or allowed him to get the start today, if you were looking to shop him, you could have just left it at that. This is the one. The whole thing about today shows us that no matter how much we think we know, and how much we study up, how much we read, who we follow, we don't get to see practice. And the only thing I can think of is that he must be showing something in practice. But I felt it was a complete error to have him in there. I felt that tactically we were just doomed to fail, putting the few bright players that you do have in bad positions, and he looked awful today. So if the intent was to sell him, you probably lost about £3 million in value today.
Simon?
Well, it wasn't a good game, we know that. I think the defence did pretty well for a change. Kirikesh and Dyer had their moments, and I thought overall that was solid. But I thought the midfield really didn't contribute, and we just didn't get any service up front. I mean,
again, right? Again, the same things we've been lamenting on all season long.
The total shots were abysmal. The quality of the shooting was dreadful. I think there were missed opportunities within and around the box that we could have taken shots. And again, it's this recurring theme of trying to tee up the ideal shot, and that's I think probably frustrating a lot of us. The quality of some of those shots were just when Eriksson managed to cut in and blazed over the bar. Paulinho's effort that just had us all holding our heads in our hands.
Bent 11.
So we really. I think I remember one effort that had a reasonable effort, but we just didn't get the shots on target. And credit to Burnley. Let's face it, last home game they beat City. They've now given up no goals to two reasonably good teams significantly higher than them in the table. And I'm sure they probably felt that was 2 points dropped in their minds, because they had a couple of great chances. Ings in the first half should have put it anywhere but into Vorm's gloves. And I don't know who had the shot that was curling into the top right-hand corner.
Ings as well.
Vorm palmed that away, and that was going in. So, granted, those were really their only two clear-cut efforts, but they were a heck of a lot better than ours.
Well, and to add to that, so Ings got his chance in that first 5 minutes because Mason just completely handed him the ball. And what was interesting is if you go back and you replay that finish again, Bentaleb actually kind of shoves him. Could have been a penalty. But I don't think you're going to get that call in that situation. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Ings, and I watched Ings a lot because I thought, well, maybe I'm watching a future Spurs player here. And I'm interested to actually ask you guys what you thought of him, and is there a place for him in our squad at the right price? Switch gears a little bit.
We talked about this.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I think we're all... And this goes back to the transfer window in January. We're all talking about what would we do if we had 2 to 3 really, really top-notch strikers that we know could chip in with 15 to 20 goals a season. You'd certainly have hoped that Adebayor or Soldado would have been able to do that, but unfortunately that's not happened. If it's an Ings, if it's a Charlie Austin, when do you play them with Harry? Do you rotate them and they play in... all the cup games? Do you occasionally play 4-4-2 when you get a bit arrogant and think, well, I should handily beat this team? I just don't see how we're going to be able to fit that into the rotation. But I understand we've got to have depth on the striker front. I mean, Soldado was the only one on the bench today that was able to do that. And when he was out, obviously we had Aid there, which came to nothing because his contribution was exactly that. But I think... that's the $67,000 question, is who is that person and the right person to fit into that kind of rotation, because it's clear we're only going to be playing with one up front in the majority of the games.
Yeah, because Simon, I mean, he really hasn't had... I can't think of a performance this year where we played 2 up front, or even, a 9 supporting, or a 10 supporting a 9.
If we're in a desperate losing position and he's throwing everything out there that he can to try and get back into the game, it's about the only time he's done it, right? I don't think
and I can't think of any time that we did it successfully. It's never worked. It never worked with Soldado, never worked with Adebayor, it never worked even with Eriksson. And I mean, I can't think of a spot
I'm
where...
sure there have been some games this season. Nothing comes to mind off the top of my head, but there's probably been something out there outside of the scenario I just mentioned.
Look, when I was watching Ings today, hard worker. I did notice how well he and Kane seemed to get along after the match. They were having a bit of a chit-chat. He made a remarkable volley cross in the first half, which was an extraordinary effort that he made to get down to the byline and cross this ball in the volley before it went out. Took a good crack, made Vorm produce a very good save. Really, the only time that Vorm was really tested, other than that 1v1 in the first 5 minutes. But it works hard, but it's just like, But is he an exceptional talent? No, he's a serviceable forward that could be a squad player and could he bang in 10 goals for us a year? Probably, I thought.
Yeah, but my point for Ings is, and I mentioned this today in the pub, I don't think Spurs are in line to get him. I still think Liverpool are the front runners to get him. I still think that they're looking for some very serviceable, maybe albeit not as expensive, options to put up at striker to work with Sturridge, and I think Ings would work wonderfully with Sturridge up there up at front. Charlie Austin is the name that comes to mind for me. He's already 25. He'll be 26 next year. Look, I really do not see Pochettino altering his system to play two strikers. So you're going to have to take one of those guys and either play them on the wing, if not a 4-2-3-1, then in a 4-3-3 type situation up front, or you're going to have to put one of them in the hole. If you put Harry in the hole, you're doing him, the club, the fan base, and everybody else on the planet that's a Spurs fan a disservice. I think that is a mistake. We saw that early on. He played him in the hole with Soldado up front.
Yeah.
And it really does not work. It does not. I'd almost rather see Soldado in the hole. He's a little bit better with his feet, weighted passes and things of that nature.
Yeah, he's got a gorgeous first touch. In fact, if his finishing was as good as some of his passing was this year, we wouldn't be grumbling as much, right?
Right. And so, is a Charlie Austin that kind of a center forward, or I don't want to call him a striker, because if anybody is classified strictly as a striker and a poacher, they're not going to fit.
Yeah.
You're not going to unseat Harry Kane at this point.
Yeah.
Not now, not next year, not ever, as long as he's wearing lily white, barring injury. So you have to find somebody that's willing to come to Tottenham. I think Charlie or Danny would that is an open option, and I would say more for Austin. Berahino, that's another option. You look at Villa, who are still kind of in a relegation battle of their own. If they continue to slip under Sherwood, they've played a little bit better as of late. But so have Burnley. So if Burnley unseats Villa and then they slide back, and Sunderland is another option also, you got to start looking at their roster a little bit. Is it Ngbonlahor or a Benteke? I don't want to mention Defoe because he's a good impact sub, but I don't know that he's ready to be welcome back at Spurs.
Agreed.
But you have to try to go through, because I don't want to go foreign. I don't think anybody wants to go foreign. I think everybody's sick and tired of going and getting players from other leagues that come in here and simply don't work, or you have to wait a year or 6 months for them to bed in. And especially if they're playing behind Harry Kane, there's no time to do that.
Well, there is a certain type of player that we can take out of the equation, right? We learned that this week with the minutes, the trust minutes coming out, where the club admitted to the trust that gone are the days where we're going to go for the 25 million pound player. We're more comfortable in that 10 to 15 million pound friendly zone, and that's where our scouting and transfer efforts and activity will lie. So I think you have to cuff a discussion about strikers within that 10 to 15 million pound budget.
And that's true. I mean, that's true.
And I think both those players. I mean, I don't really view Charlie much differently than Ings. Do you guys? About the same, really, right?
No, having watched the QPR game yesterday, I thought Charlie Austin bossed that game a bit more than probably Ings did today. Granted, Ings had his 2 chances, but Austin scored 1, had an assist, got me some fantasy points, so I can't complain.
Yeah, and they both. We've talked about this a lot this year, that Soldado didn't have, well, any of the 7 for that matter, no Premier League experience, and both have proven to be relatively serviceable. Well, not relatively, they've been serviceable players and additive to their respective teams. With Austin probably in terms of pure results, but then again, QPR is so bad they got nobody. I mean, they got Bobby Zamora, right? I mean, that's the only other striker they have.
Transfermarket.com has Austin listed at €9 million value.
Yeah, it's probably what it should be until everybody gets in, kind of a feeding frenzy.
And he does have that good old-fashioned English centre forward about him. He's a big lad, a bit bigger than Ings. hopefully
Yeah.
by the time Harry's matured and into the prime of his life, that's where he is.